Hey, it's Dave from Doing Things with Dave. Today is April 6th. It's day 9 on the Norwegian Joy. We are currently on a sea day. We're cruising in the Pacific Ocean about 60, 70 miles west of Nicaragua. It's been a great 9 days so far. So today I wanted to catch you up on some of the things that I've been doing over this past week and give you a little bit of a preview of what next week looks like. First and foremost, this week has been super relaxing. We've been to 3 different ports plus the Panama Canal, and obviously the Panama Canal is a huge highlight of this 15 or 16 day, depending on how you count that last day, cruising. But our first port was Cartagena, Colombia, and that was a really interesting experience. Now, I want to preface this with, I'm going to give an overview of each of the ports we've stopped at, the Panama Canal itself. I do plan to do a longer video for each, kind of breaking down more details of everything we saw, everything we did, but wanted to kind of get a highlight out of so far. And hopefully tomorrow when we're in Guatemala, I will have strong enough Wi-Fi so I can update this video for everybody. But in any case, our first port was in Cartagena, Colombia. What I did was a tour of the fort and the colonial old town. Really enjoyed it. The tour of the fort actually was just a chance to take a picture of it. We didn't actually go into the fort. But what was really neat about the old town is we got to tour around a variety of different historic sites, the Naval Museum, the Inquisition Museum, and kind of see the architecture. One of the coolest things I thought was, even though this is a very Spanish-influenced city, it reminded me a lot of the French Quarter New Orleans, simply because of the narrow streets, the 2- and 3-story buildings with the balconies and beautiful colors. Cartagena was a really neat experience. One thing that was interesting is just about everybody on the ship was on an excursion going through Cartagena, and they were all different, but they were all the same. We saw everybody from the cruise on tour with this title, tour with that title, in the same spots at the same time. All good, and I think everybody did enjoy themselves. One neat thing too about the port itself is they have a bird aviary, peacocks and macaws and all sorts of just kind of craziness. The peacocks are up in the trees, they're walking around, they're strutting around, the macaws are flying everywhere. So that was a kind of a cool way to finish the excursion. And what's neat is it's free. So it's part of the tour or the port experience. So it's one of those things where if you are in Cartagena, don't skip that. Next was the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal did not disappoint. It was an amazing experience from start to finish. Break it into, I guess you could say, 3 kind of sections. The first was early in the morning. We went through the first set of locks. We went through the new locks, the Agua Clara locks, or Agua Clara locks. They're much wider. They don't have 2 lanes. It's just 1 lane at a time, but they're designed for what they call Neo-Panamax ships, so ships that are bigger than what the Panama Canal could originally carry. The process is similar. It's still 3 sets of locks. You go up about 30 or 40 feet in each. They don't have mules. Instead, they bring tugboats in, but it was a really neat experience. After we went through the first 3 locks, we then docked in Gatun Lake, primarily because it's the dry season in Panama, so the lake is much lower and there's some tide issues. And in order to get through the last bridge, the Bridge of the Americas, which is the first bridge over the Panama Canal and it's part of the Pan American Highway, we had to wait until our superstructure was low enough so that we could get under the bridge. So what they did is they had us dock or anchor in the middle of Gatun Lake, and it basically became a relaxing sea day. Everybody kind of, after seeing the craziness of the first few hours of going through the lock and kind of getting video, and we got to get to the bow of the ship, and went through all different areas to watch things. I ended up watching a lot of the lock transit from deck 7, which is the closest to the water. So it was really neat to see as we would rise up, we were level with the side of the wall, and then all of a sudden we're 30 feet above it, which is kind of cool. And yes, you can feel the movement. It's not It's not violent, it's not aggressive, but you can definitely feel as the ship is starting to elevate itself. Anyway, as we spent the afternoon in Gatun Lake, it was relaxing. Everybody kind of went to the pool, maybe took a nap. I took a nap. And then around 1:30, we got moving again. And this was then to go through the Gaillard Cut. Now, one thing that was great about the ship is they had brought on board a former pilot who narrated the whole day. So as we were doing things, he's a local Panamanian. He explained the Panama Canal in great detail, all the different things we should be paying attention to. It was phenomenal. It was great to just now know what we're going to see, and really enjoyed that extra level of communication, education, history. It made the day even better. So Gaillard Cut is the long, narrow portion of the canal. It's actually what you feel like you're in a canal. And there's a couple things that were really cool on it. First off, we saw some crocodiles, and that was really neat just to see from the ship the crocodiles. Now, we weren't real close to them, and at first it was kind of hard to even recognize them, but I saw 3 of them, including one that had its mouth wide open, which is a way they regulate heat. Second, we saw a prison. And it's funny, as we were cruising by, I thought to myself, wow, that looks like guard towers, and there's barbed wire. That looks like a prison. And then all of a sudden, and unfortunately, I don't think I got a picture of it, but the guide came over the loudspeaker and gave us a kind of an update. Yes, that's a prison. And in fact, it's a prison that Manuel Noriega, who had at one time been an authoritarian dictator leader of Panama, was in prison there. So kind of interesting. And again, as a Cold War kid growing up during the time where Operation Just Cause took place, and Panama was in the news way back then. Certainly Manuel Noriega, I know who he was. Just an interesting sort of, oh, wow. Then the other thing that was really neat for me is we went through the Continental Divide. And there, you clearly know when you're there because it's a giant, it looks like a terraced pyramid. It's where they cut through. And my cabin was on the port side, which is actually what they say is the better side to see. I ended up looking at both sides, but got some nice video and shots of me with the Continental Divide in the background. We went through then the next set of locks, the Colicchio locks, probably saying that wrong. Same idea, except instead of going up, we had to go down. Now, a quick bit of why the Panama Canal works like that. It's not that the Pacific or Atlantic Oceans have different levels. It's in order to get through the Panama Canal, they needed to elevate us up to what the man-made Gatun Lake is in the Gaillard Cut, and then bring us back down to the Pacific coast. So after we went through the locks, again, it was a really cool experience. And what was neat is because we were delayed having to stay in the Gatun Lake during the day, that meant part of the transit was at night. And it was neat to see the lights come on. And then it was really cool as we were waiting a little bit longer to go through or underneath the Bridge of the Americas, we saw another crocodile, a giant crocodile. Now this video that I'm going to put up in this one is from Deck 8, the waterfront. So we're probably 50 feet above water, 40 feet above water. And this crocodile was massive, probably 15 or 16 feet long. Okay, so after the Panama Canal, we go to the bridge. Somewhat anticlimactic, right? Because it was dark and I did get a shot of us going underneath, but it was late. So we went under the bridge. Again, the Pan American Highway goes on the Bridge of Americas, and then we docked in Panama City on the Pacific coast, Puerto Amador for the night, and then had an excursion the next day. So this is the one bit of the trip that wasn't so great. This excursion did not go well. We weren't delayed, but when we got, and the plan was to go to the Miraflores locks, and then the Miraflores Visitor Center. Miraflores is the old locks. So the idea is you watch a ship go up through the older locks. They're more narrow, you're much more close up. You get to see the mules in action, which are what keep the ship centered in the canal. There's a visitor center that you are supposed to see how the locks work in more detail. I did learn one really cool thing. There are no water pumps in the locks. Everything is gravity fed. I didn't learn that in the visitor center. Why? Well, the visitor center was closed for renovation. So we could see On the overflow area, the ability to watch the locks, and this is what it is. You can't control that. They need to renovate things. Totally understand that. That wasn't communicated, but that's not the issue. The issue is our guide did not communicate to us. She didn't tell us changes in plans. We went through to see the ship in the lock. We had 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Then we had to go see a really well done IMAX video presentation on how the canal came to be. Morgan Freeman narrates it. It's fascinating. It takes you through the mistakes the French made, the early mistakes the Americans made until the canal was built, then the expansion, the handover, all that, and really fascinating. The problem was, because there were so many people at the visitor center that was closed, except for the overflow and the movie, half of our group didn't get into the first showing, which, had this been communicated, would have been fine. But instead, that wasn't. What happened is me and several others saw the movie. We went to the meeting point where the bus was supposed to be. There was no bus. There was no people. And we weren't sure exactly what happened. Did we get left? We tried to find the bus. We walked all over the parking lot because there were lots of buses, lots of people there. No, then we went back inside. The guards were very nice. They let us go in. We could not find anyone we saw, could not find our guide, went to every level, went to the viewing platform again. Now we're freaking out, right? Because now it's over a half an hour and we're worried we're going to be left in the middle of Panama. Now, ultimately would have gotten a taxi and gotten back to the ship. But right, this is a really, it's kind of scary feeling, right? You're in another country, you feel like you've been abandoned. So it turns out what happened was half the group didn't get into the first movie. So the guide basically had them wait, and then they got in to see the movie when we got out. But our guide didn't communicate this to us. She wasn't at the exit point. She wasn't at the meeting point. We found out by tracking down another tour operator who ultimately was able to get in touch with her, and she nonchalantly said, "Oh, I'm in the cafeteria." Everybody knows that. Well, we didn't know that. We found her and we said, "Look, we understand you had to make a decision, but you didn't communicate that to us." And she said, "Well, I tried." No, you didn't. Eventually, everyone finished the movie. We got on the bus, and we were then supposed to tour the old U.S. military installations. However, while we did this, it was a very quick drive through the old housing areas. And then there was supposed to be a lot more opportunity to see where the workers live, some of the old construction areas, do some shopping, even go over the Bridge of the Americas. Our excursion was supposed to be 5 hours long, give or take. It was 3.5 hours long. Almost got left, so incredibly frustrating. Have let Norwegian know we're waiting for some clarity on what they're going to do. They're waiting to hear back from the tour operator, but I'm going to get my money back on that one. And it's not about the money, but it's about the bad experience. Okay, so after the Panama Canal and Panama City, what we then did was go on another sea day. Quick overview on what I've been doing on sea days. Generally, go float in the pool for an hour or two, go into Spice H2O in the hot tub, have a few beers, relax. I hit the casino. Have not done very well in the casino. I haven't done bad, but I played penny slots, and well, I'm down a couple pennies. But in any case, sea days are super relaxing though. It's enjoyable. I do a lot of deck loops. The nice thing about the Joy is there's 3 areas where you can really run or walk. Deck 16 has a running track, jogging track, walking track. In the morning, they keep the sun loungers out of the way, and you'll see a lot of people doing loops, which is great. And then deck 8, the waterfront, goes 3/4 of the way around the ship, so basically starts at the forward stairs and elevators and goes all the way around the stern, and then comes back up to the other side. 4 laps of that's about a mile. You can also go down on deck 7, which is the lifeboat deck. So deck 7, I was out walking there this morning and actually saw a dolphin porpoising. So that was incredibly cool. So sea days have been great. I also saw a stingray from deck 16. Didn't get a chance to take a video of it, but again, amazing experience. Okay, so the last bit of excursion I want to talk about was in Costa Rica. We did a crocodile safari. This was a great experience. Got on a bus, went for about a 45-minute ride, then got on a boat and spent 2 hours on a boat going up and down the Tarcoles River and saw crocodiles, iguanas, all sorts of birds, pelicans, osprey, black hawk eagles. They just call them black hawks, but turns out they're a type of eagle. Saw monkeys, saw herons, egrets, all sorts of things. And the boat experience was phenomenal. The guide and the driver, they knew where all sorts of things were. They were pointing out, hey, there's a crocodile, there's a this type of bird, there's a something to look on the right, something to look on the left. So everybody got a great chance to see it. Two things I do want to mention about that. So I did a lot of video with my iPhone, which I'm recording here, but I also brought my GoPro, both for the canal itself and then for the crocodile safari. So I have a ton of footage for that I will go through and hopefully get some really good shots. One thing that was interesting on the crocodile tour is we saw 7 or 8 crocodiles, including... I seem to be having some gimbal problems, but I'm going to try to continue to record this. So apologies for a little bit of roughness in some of these video edits. As I was saying, on the crocodile tour, one of the things that the guides were so good at was pointing out things, and we saw 7 or 8 crocodiles, including the one I'm going to put on screen now, probably 15 to 20 feet long. They say he weighs about 1,500 pounds or more. He was massive. So that was a great experience. The last thing I want to mention is we're on a sea day today. We, like I said, are going to Guatemala tomorrow. My excursion tomorrow is to go see the Antigua, doing a craft beer tour, so that should be a lot of fun. And then a couple sea days. Then we do 2 stops in Mexico, 1 sea day after that, and then we end up in Los Angeles next Sunday. So I've got a week to go. Obviously having a great time. This has been an amazing adventure. Highly recommend the Panama Canal, and well, I'll see you on the sea.